Okay, now we can start with the Sqlite database. So before going to start with Sqlite database, we can add this adapter to the RecyclerView. So go to main activity.java. So here create some variables for the recycler adapter. We need an array list here. So declare an array list here that contains some object of contact class. And now we can initialize the adapter. And pass the array list. Now set the adapter for the RecyclerView. Okay, now we finished the coding for the RecyclerView. Now we can start with the Sqlite database. So open dbcontract.java. Here we need to define the structure of the database. So for that, here I am going to declare some variables. Okay, here I declare all the needed variables. So all are public static final variables. First one is a database name. This variable contains the name of the database. Second one, we declare the table name. Here the table name is contact info, and this is the first column name, and this is the second column name. Okay, now we can create the Sqlite database. For the Sqlite database operation, here we need to create another Java class. So create a new Java class. I name it as DB helper. And this class extends Sqlite open helper. And here you need to implement some methods. You need to implement two methods, on create and on upgrade. Here we need to declare some variables. Okay, here I declare all the needed variables. Here I declare some final variables. First one is database version, and here is the SQL query for create table. Here we create the table create table and get the table name from the contract class. And here the first column is an ID that is integer type, and it is primary key, and it is auto increment. And second column name is name. It is of text type. Third column name is sync status. It is an integer. And here is the SQL query for drop table. Okay, for this class we need a constructor. So here I am going to add a constructor for this class. And for the constructor we need one parameter. It is a context object. So from the constructor you must call the superclass method. So use the super keyword. First parameter context. Now you need to pass the, here is the parameters. First one is the context, second one is the table name, database name, third one is cursor factory object, fourth one is the database version. Now the second parameter is the database name. So get the database name from the contract class. Third parameter is the cursor factory object. Here you can pass null for it. And the last parameter is the database version. So pass database version. So this will create the database. Now we can create the table from the onCreate method. So from the onCreate method, here on the onCreate method we have a parameter of Sqlite database. So by using that parameter we can create the table. So db dot, there is a method called execute SQL, and pass the create table statement. This will create the table for us. And if you want to upgrade the database, first thing we have to remove the table. So by using the Sqlite Database object, you can call the execute SQL method and pass the drop table command. Again, from this method, call the Oncreate method, and for this method you need to pass the object of Sqlite Database. So this will drop the table. So here in this class we create the database from the constructor and we create the table from the Oncreate method. Now we need to add our own methods for add information to the local database, and we need method for read information, and also we need a method for update the database. So here I am going to add a method for save information to the local database. I name the method as save it to local database. For this method we need some parameter. First one is the name. Second one is the sync status. It is an integer type. And last one is Sqlite Database object. I name it as database. So for add information to the Sqlite database, first thing we have to create some variables for content values, and you need to add all the column values in the form of name value pair to the content values object. So first create some variables for content values. Now we need to add each of the column values in the form of a name value pair to the content values object. Get the column name from the contract class. First column is name and pass the value for it. Second column, get the second column name. Here the second column is sync status and pass the value for it. Now we can call the appropriate method for add information to the Sqlite database. So we can use the Sqlite Database object, and here is the method. For this method you need to pass three parameters. First one is the table name, second one is null column hack, and last one is the content values object. So call that method. Table name. Second parameter is the null column hack, so you can pass null for it. Last one is the content values object. So from this method we add information to the Sqlite database. Now we need to create another method for read information from the Sqlite database. So create another method. Here the return type is a cursor object. I name it as read from local database. For this method we need only one parameter. It is an object of Sqlite database. So first thing we have to specify the column names. For that, here I am going to using an array. So in that array we have to specify the column names that we want to read from the database. We read from the table. So get the column name from the contract class. Now we can return the result from here. By using the Sqlite database object, you can call a method called query. So for that method, first parameter is the object of first parameter is the table name, db contract dot table name. Second one is the projections, that means the table names, sorry, the column names. Now you need to pass 5 null values. Okay, this method read information from the Sqlite database. Now we need to create another method for updating the Sqlite database. I name it as update local database. And for this method also we need the same parameter, so I copy all these parameters. So here also, first thing, create some variables for content values. So here we want to update the sync status based on the name. So here we need to update the values of sync status. So content values dot specify the key name db contract dot sync status and pass the value for it. Now we need to specify the selection condition. I create a method, a variable called the selection. So here we need to update the table based on the name. So db contract dot name, and this is the condition. So here we need to update the sync status based on the name. Now we need to specify the selection arguments. And it is need to be an array. Here specify the selection arguments. Here only one argument, it is the name. So by using the Sqlite database object, you can call a method called update. So for this method you need to pass parameters like table name, content values, where clause, that means the condition, and finally the selection arguments. So get the table name from the contract class. Now pass the content values. Now the selection, that means condition, so pass the value for it. And final one is we need to pass the selection argument. So this will update the database. So now we finish all the coding for the Sqlite database operation, and now we can connect this Sqlite database with our RecyclerView. So now go to main activity.java. So first here I am going to create a method for check whether there is an internet connection available or not. Okay, here I define a method with the name check network connection. So in that method, first create some variables for connectivity manager and get the system service. The service is connectivity service, and by using that variable we initialize another variable called network info. So from the network info we can get the informations of the active network. So here we check some condition. If network info not equal to null, if your device in airplane mode, then the value of network info is null. So first here we check that one, if network info not equal to null and network info is connected. In that case this method will return true, otherwise this will return false. Okay, so when the user open the application for the first time, if there is some data available on the Sqlite database, we have to load that data to the RecyclerView. So first we need to read the information from the local database. So we need a method for read information from the local database. Here I create a method called read from local storage. So now we need to read information from the local database. So first we have to create a variable for DB helper class. And you need to pass the context. Now we need to create some variables for Sqlite database by using the DB helper class. We can initialize that one. Here we need a readable database, so use this method get a readable database. Now we can read information. So here we need some variable for cursor because the result is in the form of a cursor object. So DB helper dot read from local database. Here you need to pass the Sqlite database object. Now we can get the information from the cursor. For that, here we can use a while loop. Now here get the data, get name first. So cursor dot get string, get column index, and here we can pass the column name. Now we need to get the sync status. So cursor dot get int, cursor dot get column index. Now pass the column name in the sync status. Okay, so here we get name and sync status. Now we need to pass this information in the form of an object of contact class. Also here we have an array list, so we need to save that object to the array list. So we can do it in a single step. So array list dot add. First one is name. So new contact. First parameter is name and second parameter is sync status. So after all the data added to the contact class, and all these contact class objects are available on the array list. So now we need to refresh the RecyclerView adapter. So you can simply call adapter dot notify data set change. This will refresh the RecyclerView. And finally, we can close the cursor. Also, we can close the DB helper object. So at the beginning, if there is previous data available on the adapter, we need to clear that one. So we can clear the data from the array list. Okay, so now we can call that method from the Oncreate method. So from here I'm going to call that method read from local storage. Now we need to create another method for save information to the local database. So here create another method for add information to the local database. I name it as save it to local storage. And for this method we need one parameter, it is the name. So here we have to check some condition. If there is network connections are available, we have to save the information on the SQLite database. Also we have to send the information to the application server. So if there is no internet connections are available in that situation, we can directly save the information to the local database. So here we can check some condition. If call this method check network info, network connection. So if there is connections available, this if loop will execute, otherwise it will directly go to the else part. So from here we can directly save the information to the local storage, that means SQLite database. So here also we need the variables for DB helper and SQLite database. By using the DB helper we can call the get writable database. So from the else part, that means there is no network connections are available, we can directly save the information to the SQLite database. So for that you need to call the method. So db helper dot save it to local database. First one is name, second one is sync status. So here the sync status is failed because the data is not saved on the app server. So db contract dot sync status failed. Now we need to pass the object of database, SQLite database. So here after add information to the SQLite database, there is a new data available on the SQLite database. So at the same time we need to display the newly added data on the RecyclerView. So we can simply call the read from local storage method from here. So here I call that method read from local storage. Now the same thing, we can close the database connection. So db helper dot close. So now we need to get the data from the edit text. So from the submit name, get the data. Name dot get text. Convert into string. Now we can call the method save it to local storage and pass the name. So after save the name, we can clear the edit text. So name dot set text. Okay, now we finish the coding for working with the SQLite database. So if there is no network connections are available, here the data directly saved to the SQLite database. So one more thing, go to manifest file and write manifest.xml. Here we need to add some permission. So users permission. First one is we need the internet permission. Second one is we have to check the network state. So use permission access network state. Okay, now we can test our application. Okay, now run the application. Okay, now the application available on this virtual device. So first here I am going to put the device in offline mode. So I switch on the airplane mode. Now there is no network connections are available on this device. Now we can add some data. add some name and submit it. So here the data available on the Sqlite database, and here the sync status shows that this data need to be synced with the web server. So now try to add another data and submit that one. Okay, so now I remove the application from the device memory and try to open it again, and here it shows that this data is successfully saved to the Sqlite database. Okay, now we finished the Sqlite database part. Now we can start how to send this data to the remote server.